Buenos días a todos, bienvenidos a este tercer Congreso Nacional de Asociaciones de Andamos. Es un gusto pues ver muchas caras conocidas, pero sobre todo más caras que no conozco. Me emociona porque pues vamos a aprovechar los espacios de networking para conocernos. Espero que cada quien venga muy motivado, con historias que contar y con algunos tips y mejores prácticas que compartir. Esta mañana vamos a arrancar con todo. Yo espero que cada quien ya haya comido sus taquitos al pastor, se haya echado su jugo de naranja y su cafecito y ya estemos con los oídos bien abiertos porque la primer conferencia, el keynote speaker de esta mañana, me toca el honor y el gusto presentarla. Ella es Pam Hemann, ella es presidenta de Association Management Services. Les voy a leer una breve semblanza de Pam para que tengan el antecedente de dónde viene. Ella es expresidenta nacional de la Asociación Estadounidense de Ejecutivos de Asociaciones, ASAE, que también nos apoyó con la organización de este congreso. Ganó en el 2014 el premio The Key Award, el cual reconoce cualidades excepcionales de liderazgo a los directores de asociaciones. En su comunidad se desempeñó como vicepresidenta y secretaria de la Pasadena Pops Orchestra. Es expresidenta de Pasadena Center Operating Company, una junta de la ciudad responsable del Centro de Convenciones de Pasadena, el Auditorio Cívico, Ice Rink y el Convention and Visitors Bureau. Yo creo que vamos a todos a darle una fuerte bienvenida a Pam, que viene desde tan lejos para estar con nosotros hoy, y vamos a hacerla sentir bienvenida con un fuerte aplauso, por favor.
Thank you. Gracias, Claire. No hablo español, pero tengo una nieta que habla español con fluidez. Me ayudó con este saludo. Buenos días. Me alegro estar aquí con mis colegas o amigos de la Asociación en México. Les doy saludos de ASAE y mi estado natal, California. That's it. Well, thank you. I'd like to start with just going through a few things about associations to help understand the story of associations, I think not only in America, in my country, but in your country and around the world. So the idea of associations really started way back in the Middle Ages. And in Europe, during that era, many centuries ago, people formed organizations that they called guilds. And they were for the purpose of people working together with the same kinds of goals, types of industries and commerce working together to achieve those goals. So it wasn't particularly surprising when there was immigration to America that as business and economy grew, people started forming associations. It was part of their heritage and part of their history. And so there have been associations in America long before it was a country. In fact, one of our statesmen, Benjamin Franklin, formed the American Philosophical Society back in 1743. We weren't a country until 1776. So it was part of our history. And in fact, a Frenchman by the name of Alexis de Tocqueville started traveling in what was America in the mid-1800s. And he remarked that part of the reason democracy was working in the US was because of associations, that they were that sector that made things happen in a different way, the way that commerce and industry and private business and government could not do. And he also wrote a paper in which he said that Americans will form associations for almost anything, and it's true. Anything. We like to do that. So with that, I would also just like to point out a couple of other things. There's really no other segment of society that improves lives the way associations do every day. You know, from creating industry standards that make us safe, they provide disaster relief, they offer expertise and create better policy for government, and so much more. So I'd just like to know something about you in the room. Claire told you about me. So just so I know, how many people in the room are from trade associations? These are organizations where the company or the institution is the member, and you probably do some lobbying, advocacy. How many trade? Okay, great, thank you. And how about professional societies like CPAs, nurses, the individual membership organization? Yeah, many of you representing those. And how about philanthropic, cause-related organizations? Okay, great. So maybe more of the third one, of the philanthropic groups, the cause-related groups, but a really nice mix. So I hope that we have something here for all of you today. So in America, again, we fuel the economy through industrial development and product development. In associations also dedicate a great deal of their effort and their time in educating the public, right? I'm sure that we all do that. And in turn, associations also implement programs that are valuable to their communities. So we strengthen society, we strengthen the economy, we educate the workforce, and we also provide services that help people across the country. So whether you are a trade association or a professional society or a cause-based organization, you are very much a part of what ASAE calls the power of A, the power of associations, and what we can do to make the world a better place. And as I said again, at ASAE, we call that the power of A, the power of associations. And would you please run that first video?
Associations touch everything Americans touch, everything you touch every day of your life.
We're with you every day. We're with you in almost everything you do, but you don't see us.
From the minute you wake up, the mattress you sleep on, to the clothes you wear, to the car you drive, to the bridges you cross, to the medical procedures you have, to the institutions you belong to. When you put it in a broad context, there are over 300 million Americans who belong to associations.
There's no question America's stronger with all of the associations we've got representing every sector of our economy, really.
Associations represent more than 1.3 million jobs in the United States. That's huge.
If you look at the broader workforce, 10% of the entire U.S. workforce is employed by a nonprofit, tax-exempt organization.
When you think about associations and their impact on the economy, it's the driver for continuing professional education.
There's a number of different resources that associations provide to help educate not only their membership but the general public.
Associations, no matter what the issue is, are really bringing that teamwork and collaboration to the table and making, I think, a huge difference with powerful results.
And that's really what the power of A is all about. It's the power of associations, and communicate not only to policymakers, not only to the administration, but also to the general public about the tremendous impact that associations have on the quality of life that we enjoy in this great country.
So ASAE actually started the power of A to bring recognition to what associations do. And the idea was, how do we tell our story, right? Because if you want to inspire people, tell them a good story. We all know that, right? We must be good storytellers if we're working for associations. And so they started the Power of A, and one of the things that they did was create a set of awards. And they called these awards the Summit Awards. And they had several different categories, and there were several different levels of awardees. And the top award was called the Summit Award, and therefore the Summit Dinner. Well, that dinner is held every year in Washington, D.C. at the National Building Museum, and it's been going on now for 17 years. I'm really happy to say I haven't missed one, so that makes me a real association junkie. I admit it. It's in me. And so what I'm going to do now is share some stories with you, some deeper stories about 3 associations that were recipients over the years of this Summit Award, all right? So we're gonna look at one that actually was very involved in setting standards. We're going to look at another one that was about helping communities in need because of a crisis. And the final one was a really feel-good story about helping a special community. So the very first one that we're going to look at is about setting standards. And when we talk about setting standards, I don't know what that is here for you, but almost every product that hits the market in the United States has some kind of standard on the way it was manufactured, on the way it's used, and those have to be written up, and then the product has to meet those standards. And associations in America are very involved in that process. So it's not done just by government, it is done through government with the work of associations. And it goes for so many things. So what we have here in this next slide is really a story about the Association of Equipment Management Professionals. So these are the men and women that run large fleets of equipment for construction, for mining, for roadways, etc. Now, I happen to know this association pretty well. They were very challenged by different kinds of systems on technology on equipment. So a company like John Deere might have a particular kind of equipment, large-scale equipment that had one kind of technology and one kind of coding and language, and then maybe another company would have one and it would have a different kind of coding and a different kind of technology and a different kind of system. And so for the workforce, the people trying to run these machines, they were learning all of these different types of technologies and systems and language and usage. And it created a lot of complications and also some safety risks, because having the knowledge about running this heavy equipment with different kinds of systems was very difficult. So AEMP decided, how do we bring the industry together to try to find a common language that can be used for the technology? And so they didn't know how they would do this. They had no idea how they would do this. So they brought together about as many people as in this room today. And they started a process called World Cafe. Does anyone know World Cafe? All right. So this is when you bring a lot of people in the room and you ask them questions. And you ask them to think about questions. How do they want to do something? What's important to them? What do they think the association should do about the problem? And the people come in and sit at their table, and then one person stays at the table as the leader of the table and the recorder. There's about 10 minutes of conversation, then everybody gets up, goes to another table, and the recorder stays. And they keep gathering that information. And by the end of a couple of hours, they start funneling it down till they start coming to key ideas and possible solutions. So it's a really quick way to engage a lot of people and also get some good ideas. So we did a World Cafe, and it led them to discover that they needed to bring together the manufacturers, the equipment managers, and the distributors, bring them all together and start creating a language and a usage that would be viable for the industry, for all sides of the industry, for the full chain of the industry. And they did this, and the problem and the solution they came to was called telematics. So they were having problems with this technology called telematics, and how do they set some standards that are accepted by everyone in the industry and by government in order to properly make it possible for people to use the equipment. And so with that, I'm going to have you go ahead, please, and play video number 2. This is AEMP winner of the Summit Award in 2017.
AEMP, a small, largely unknown organization, encouraged a very competitive global industry to come together for the good of the industry. Back in 2007, AEMP embarked on its traditional planning process. We utilized the World Cafe technique to gather information. And out of nowhere in this process, the members identified telematics as the number 2 critical issue they were facing. All the stakeholders in what AEMP refers to as the equipment triangle came together to meet and solve the challenge. ISO standardization, for instance, International Standards Organization, those regulations can take up to 5 years to be codified. And yet, with the help of the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, the process took less than 2 years. The use of telematics in the industry continues to grow as equipment owners and equipment managers realize that it will drive their long-term viability and success. It has grown well beyond equipment maintenance, and in fact, for many equipment managers, maintenance is no longer the key driver for the use of telematics. It's moved into all aspects of the company, operations, personnel, and more. And as a matter of fact, telematics is now impacting every single competency required to be an effective equipment manager. I believe AEMP's success with its initiative epitomizes the power of association. Anytime friends, competitors within an industry can come together to solve an issue through compromise, through understanding each other's positions, it can send a really strong message to the world what successful collaboration looks like.
All right, so that was a Summit Award from 2017 for standard setting. And I can tell you, certainly in America and through many trade associations and professional societies, that idea of standard setting, that need for standard setting, is one of their key objectives. If this were left to government, just think about how many more people you'd have to have doing that kind of work within government agencies. And again, it's done in conjunction with government, but the research, the knowledge, the writing of the standards is largely done by associations and then approved by government. I don't know how it works here. Does it work that way here in Mexico? Yes? Yes? Okay. All right, so our second story is really one about assisting communities in crisis. So if you think about all the kinds of crises that happen, in America, there are certainly, I'm in California, we face wildfires and a lot of disasters. And while an organization like the American Red Cross is there, there are a lot of other organizations that come to the aid of cities and people. I think about many years ago when the federal building in Oklahoma was bombed. So the first responders were there, the police, the fire department, the aid givers, they were there. But within hours, within just a few hours of that bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Nurses Association was there to help because they were overwhelmed with injured people. The Oklahoma Restaurant Association was there setting up food stations for the workers and people that were waiting to hear about their families that had gathered. So associations were there very quickly after the very first responders to try to help people in need. Another example, of course, is during any kind of school shooting where students have been frightened and hurt. The American Counseling Association has a whole movement, a whole program where they're counselors in an area, they're trained, they know what to do, they go to a school and help the children. So these are the kinds of things that associations can do that are so unique that really can't be done by government or private business. So we're going to show a video here from the Emergency Nurses Association. And you may recall, I believe it was in 2015, there was an outbreak of Ebola in the world. And also we had cases in the United States. And so the Emergency Nurses Association really stepped forward. And the video here is about their work around the Ebola crisis. And they were a Summit Award winner, I believe, in 2015. Please, video 3.
With the best medical care begins by ensuring that first responders have the training and the tools to deliver it effectively. But in an unprecedented health crisis, it's not simply about mobilizing resources. It's a matter of creating them.
In October, we were at our national conference. The day that our conference ended was the day that Nina Pham was diagnosed with Ebola. For myself, and I think for my colleagues, it hit home. Not only are we going to care for patients that potentially could have Ebola, but that we ourselves were in danger.
The ENA's response was swift. In just days, it created a task force with the world's leading emergency care associations, providing a unified voice to guide the actions of first responders and better address the flood of inquiries from the public.
We partnered with the Centers for Disease Control and the American College of Emergency Physicians to put out guidelines that were specific to emergency departments to be able to care for patients who present with possible Ebola. They didn't exist before then.
By creating and maintaining a public-facing website, ENA has ensured that all emergency caregivers have access to reliable information to help them identify and treat patients who show signs of infection.
We created this Ebola response, and we were able to make a difference in the lives of our members and in the lives of the patients and families that they care for. And that really is reward enough.
For ENA and its members, the reward is knowing that the resources they developed will inform and expedite the response of future emergency caregivers around the world. There's power in preparation. There's power in securing resources that will save lives. That's the power of A. ASAE is proud to honor the Emergency Nurses Association with a 2015 Summit Award.
All right, so if you think about it, in that kind of crisis, who would be better prepared to write the manual to describe the kinds of operations that would then be used really around the world in these types of crises? Because they do it every day. They're the hands-on people, not the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, the real people in the hospitals, on the street, that need to understand and help to resolve these issues of crisis. This was a very frightening time for people in hospitals, for nurses, very contagious, and they stepped forward immediately and wrote some rules of the road and operations manuals that are still used today in many parts of the world. So the third video that I'd like to share is around assisting communities in need. And this need is a little bit different than a crisis, right? So the need is, how can association do something to help a special need community? How can they do something that will help where otherwise people would not have anything? And sometimes this is in housing, sometimes it's in education, and the particular case of the professional ski and snowboard instructors, sounds like a nice job, right? In their case, they looked at a community in need that without some help from them, without a program of help, may never be able to experience the joy and the fun and the freedom of skiing, of snowboarding. And they were inspired to do this. I believe it was right after the Olympics in 2014, the Olympics and the Paralympics. And so there's always, when you get through the Winter Olympics, there's always then a lot of interest from people in perhaps undertaking a sport, a winter sport. So the PSIA decided that they would create a program that would help a special needs community. And this is just an example of how association enrich lives through their experience and through their compassion. Do you run video number 4?
From the beginning, humankind has always aspired to fly, to reach new heights, to face insurmountable mountains and conquer them. It's a testament to the human spirit flowing within each of us that we will not let our circumstances dictate our limitations. We might get knocked down, but we get back up, and through perseverance, we soar. Some are faced with more difficult challenges than others, but their spirit never quits, and their physical limitations don't prevent them from chasing their dreams. They are stronger by association with the Adaptive Outreach Program at the Professional Ski Instructors of America and the American Association of Snowboard Instructors.
We wanted to give the freedom that comes with skiing and snowboarding to people with different physical and developmental abilities. The program makes it easier for volunteers to get the tools they need to be better ski and snowboard instructors of the disabled.
The program gives confidence to accomplish dreams and to live life without any boundary or obstacle.
It means being able to introduce somebody to a sport or to an environment they would never have been in otherwise.
From those first starting out in the snow, to athletes working hard for a spot in the Paralympics, to wounded warriors who finally realize their self-worth and see the inner strength they possess. It's a powerful lesson, and in the end, it inspires us all. It teaches us that regardless of our limitations, we all have the power to fly.
The results of this program are just off the chart. In 3 years, we gave away over 7,000 manuals to 10,000 instructors. Those 10,000 instructors taught 20,000 students, and yet we transformed lives, one skier, one snowboarder at a time.
The power to change tens of thousands of lives, one life at a time. That's the power of A. ASAE is proud to present the Professional Ski Instructors of America and the American Association of Snowboard Instructors with the 2014 Summit Award.
All right. It's such a happy story, isn't it? Just a beautiful story of an organization helping a special community in need. So the other thing, of course, that we know associations do is educate, right? We are very good at bringing people together. In the US, we, as associations, educate about 57 million adults every year. And their training courses, post-college courses, and we do this really through meetings and conventions like this. So here we are, educating ourselves. Associations around the world account for about 315,000 meetings per year, and that's actually just in the US, and about 59 million people attend meetings every year in the US. So it's a huge industry. As an industry, it really contributes to the economy. In the US, there are about 64,000 trade and professional associations that really represent every industry and profession you could think or name. Associations, again, contribute broadly to life, and also in America, the economic benefits are about $1.3 billion, with a large number, in the millions, of people that are working for associations. We provide about $55 billion worth of payroll to the workforce in America. So we're a key resource. We bring value to the industries that we serve, and we perform essential roles for education and standard setting, and we really are the repository of knowledge and expertise. Think about your members and what they know and how that's all brought together in one place, and the expertise and the knowledge in the room, and how that can be shared and used, and especially shared and used with government as they try to run this country. This third sector of associations is truly important. Government, private business, associations. It's what, in America, it's what makes our country work. So I want to just talk a little bit about why the power of A. So why did we do this? Why do we want to talk about this? Why is it so important that we share our message? And why did ASAE decide to come up with the idea of Power of A? Well, they wanted a brand. They wanted a positioning brand for associations, that there is power in what we do. And so they call this the Power of A. And it's a messaging that we can use with policymakers, opinion leaders, the media, and of course, I think it's really important that we use it with our own members and inspire them and help them to understand what we do. You know, we're very busy running the organization in our office with our staff, working with our board, but when you think about it, the member doesn't really always understand everything that's going on in the organization, right? And so this is the kind of thing that can help tell that story. So think about, how did someone that was a member of the Emergency Nurses Association feel about being a member of that organization when they learned the story of the Emergency Nurses Association being the leaders in setting up the operations and the safety programs with the outbreak of Ebola? How did someone who is a professional ski instructor that really just wants to go up and down the mountain all day long, right? How did that person feel when they heard the story of what their association was doing to create that wonderful opportunity of soaring, of skiing, of flying, as a person with a disability finally being able to come down the hillside? So it's a message that's important for the public, but it's also messaging that's important for our own members. And so what we want, of course, is for people to share their power of action, their Power of A activities. We want them to tell stories to lawmakers, to the media, to other business leaders. We want them to tell stories that compile the evidence of what associations do to better society. And we want the stories to inspire our own members and our own communities about the good things that we can do as associations. So I want to ask you, what is your association story? I know you have one. maybe you don't think about it very often, but we're going to take a little time this morning to let you think about your own association story. And the point being, how does your association strengthen your city, your state, your region? What is its greatest value to the community? And how does your organization fit into the association and nonprofit sector? What is your story? So what I'd like you to do is think about that and take some time at your table right now to write your little story. So just think about it this way. You sit down at a table, maybe at a dinner or something, and someone asks you the inevitable question, and what do you do? And then you have to try to tell them what you do, right? And so I want you to think about a story, maybe a 30-second, what we call in the US, an elevator pitch. You know this phrase, elevator pitch? All right. So what would be your elevator pitch, your story for your association? So as an example, one of the organizations that my management company works with is called the Western Association of College and University Business Officers. It almost takes 30 seconds just to get out the name of the organization, right? Well, they are the people that are the CPAs, the administrators, the facilities people, the risk managers at the colleges and universities. So, you know, they're kind of the bean counters and making insurance things work. And so it's not a very kind of sexy kind of job at the university, right? So when I'm asked what I do for that organization, here's my 30-second message. I work with individuals that keep universities and colleges financially stable and risk-free so that their institutions can focus on their job, educating students. Okay? That's my pitch for the Western Association of College and University Business Offers. So I'd like you to just take a few minutes and think about your 30-second elevator pitch. Try to write something down, give it some thought, and then I'm going to have you share it with folks at your table. So just take about a minute or so. You don't have to have it perfect, but hopefully you'll walk out of here and spend some time really thinking about what's that thing I want to say that would inspire others about what I do? What can I say about my organization that tells its story? So go ahead, take a minute or two. All right, if you think you have a good statement, a good story, go ahead and share it with someone at the table. All right. So was this a challenging exercise? Was this kind of difficult to do? Easy? Yeah? Is it a good one? Is it important to tell your story? Yes? All right. So I'd just like to close with saying the reach of an association must go beyond the professions and the industries we represent. See, now they want to talk about it. This is great. Yeah, that's good. That's good. But as you tell your story, you can start to understand how important it is that we tell it that way to the public, to government, to use that story. Our reach should be well beyond our members and the industries we represent. Our reach should be the communities in which we live and the world, and making that a better place. So with that, I thank you very much, and if there's one or two questions, I'm happy to take them, but I'll also be here throughout the day. So thank you so much for having me here. Gracias. Thank you.